Scott was born and raised in southwest Idaho, with the first 25 years of his career spent working on and eventually helping to manage a 5,000-acre row crop farm. He said anything that wasn't a sugar beet, wheat, sweet corn, or an onion was a noxious weed to us if it was in our field. He later became the noxious weed control superintendent for Payette County, Idaho. After rapid growth in the county, Scott and his wife sought a bit more wide open space and relocated to the Palouse, where they landed in the Potlatch and Onaway area just across the border in Idaho. And he stepped into his current role as the Whitman County Noxious Weed Control Board Coordinator. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Scott.
Okay, we good?
Yep,
All right, thank you,
looks great.
Mindy. Well, thank you everybody for coming, give me the opportunity to talk. I don't usually get to talk to a whole lot of people at one shot. It's but I guess I'm here to talk to you about noxious weeds in Whitman County and surrounding areas. What is a weed? According to the RCW, noxious weed means a plant that, when established, is highly destructive or competitive or difficult to control by cultural chemical practices. The Washington State lists their noxious weeds in three classes: A, B, and C. Class A weeds are supposed to not be here. If they show up here, we want to get them taken care of right now because they're pretty bad, and or they're either a weed that it just showed up here or is threatening to show up here, like this guy here, and we're going to turn him around and get him back out of here. Um, the goal with Class A weeds is to get rid of them completely. We want them gone. If they show up, we do everything we can to get them out of here. And landowners are required to completely eradicate the Class A weeds. Uh-oh, what did I do? I was trying to get rid of Can you still see my presentation?
Yeah, we can
Okay,
still
well,
see
I
it, but it
can.
looks like it didn't advance.
I tried to the screen was in part of my or the I can't see my presentation now. Hang on.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, wait. Okay, there I see it now. Hey,
Perfect.
I know you guys can't tell, but this is actually my very first time presenting on Zoom. So so yeah, okay, the landowners, yeah, we want anybody, and we just don't want Class A in the state anywhere. So Class B is they're widespread in some parts of the state and maybe limited or absent in other parts of the state. The goal of Class B is to prevent them from spreading into new areas and to contain or reduce their population in already infested areas. So basically, like my view kind of on Class Bs is if they're huge in one part of the county, it's going to be difficult to get rid of those, but I really watch for them in other parts of the county just to make sure it doesn't explode like it has in other parts. And a Class B designate, it's a kind of a subclass under the B. It is for maybe where a weed is a Class B, but it's in your county and it's a small infestation and you want a little more control. The state might label it as a Class B. For example, hound's tongue is a Class B designate only in regions 1, 2, and 3. And in region 4, it is only a Class B designate in Chelan and Douglas County. In region 5, It's a Class B designate in Yakima, Grant, and Adams, and then Region 6. It's Benton and Franklin County. But so all the rest of the counties is just a Class B. But these apparently they have their reasons for making it a Class B designate. Maybe there's a little bit coming in, they want to get a handle on it. There's a lot of Class B designates in the county, and these are just a little bit, well, this is all of the Class B designates in the state of Washington. So it gets a little confusing, but at least, and I don't know what the Class B designates are in another county, but I know what they are in our county. Um, Also, if there's a Class B weed that's not a designate, the county weed board can select it for control and get a little bit tougher with it. The Class C weeds are widespread or special interest to the agriculture industry. Um, the state weed board does not require control of Class C noxious weeds. The What we do mostly on those is we will try to educate. Hey, you got a Class C weed. This is what you should do to take care of it. But the county weed board, if there's a Class C weed that they feel strongly about that they really need taken care of, or maybe in one particular area it needs taken care of, they can demand control of it. So in the state of Washington, there are 161 weeds on the noxious weed list. 41 of those are in Whitman County. Of the 41, 19 of those are on the C list. 22 of those are on the B list, and of those 22, 11 are designated Whitman County. So I'm knocking on wood, we have currently no A-list weeds in Whitman County. But there's a few in neighboring counties with that guy with the suitcase, like he wants to come in, but we're keeping a close eye on him. So why are noxious weeds bad? Um, in 2017, several state agencies throughout Washington got together and put together the economic impact of invasive species. It was a study done on invasive species. So crops, for example, they have determined that every year that 200 and almost $240 million is spent or wasted or on crops, the problems that invasive species cause to crops. This one is especially hits home. We don't have any sugar beets over in this area, but this is we did down where I farm down in southwestern Idaho. So this is sugar beet, and that's daughter. It's a parasitic vine that gets on your beets, and it will just take them over. It will cover them completely. And if you don't do something about it, it's going to look like that or worse. So, what we used to do is we'd have to go out there and we'd have field crews go out there and with knives. Those guys got hose, but for this time we gave them knives because they would have to just cut the leaves off the sugar beets and haul that daughter out, and we'd load it into trucks and take it off and throw it away because you couldn't have it on there. So all we did by that, we kept it from getting worse. We weren't really getting rid of it. But of course, sending the crews out there, we were spending a lot of money for that. And that was just kind of money thrown away because of noxious weeds. And another thing too, by cutting the tops off the beets, that's a good stand of beets right there. But cutting the tops off of them, and those aren't beets with tops cut off. That's just a poor stand of beets. But that's what we would do. We were reducing our yield by cutting the leaves off the beets. But if we didn't, it was just going to keep getting worse and worse. So that, and so therefore the money went away from the poor yields. And then another little thing we had to do was wash the equipment. So you get a piece of equipment in that field of daughter, you're getting that daughter all over that equipment. So when you got done in that field, you had to stop and wash all your equipment. And during harvest, that was especially tough because it was really the mud gets really thick inside the equipment. And so now every time you stop, you got downtime and you're not getting your crops harvested. And once again, you're wasting money. So that is my example of firsthand experience of noxious weeds cutting into your bottom line. This is that's annual bug loss right there in the picture. And we have some of that. And this in fact, this picture was taken in Whitman County. And these were, I believe, lentils or garbs. But that whole thing, you see the little blue flowers, that whole thing has gotten into that field and it went beyond there. And so that crop is done. I mean, you're not going to get a combine in that once it all dries up. And so, I mean, your best bet right there is just spray that out and try again next year. Canada thistle in wheat. I don't know. This isn't my picture, but I don't know how far that Canada thistle goes. But I mean, they're going to combine all that. But once you get to that, you're done. They're not going to get a combine in that. So that's just another. There's crop reduction, yield reduction. Um, Goat grass, jointed goat grass. You get that into your wheat, and for one, it competes against your wheat, um, water and nutrients, and it is hard to separate. So if that dries up like the wheat and you combine it, it's hard to get out of your wheat. So you're going to get docked probably. They find that in their wheat samples. You can't use that wheat to certify seed, and if it's bad enough, it could even get rejected by the elevator. So once again, it's cutting into the crops. Livestock, um, they have decided there's a $120 million loss annually from noxious weeds and livestock. That's Scotch thistle. Each one of those little rosettes is Scotch thistle. And if they don't take care of that right now, that's Scotch thistle later in the year. And I'm thinking that cow line there is wondering maybe where it's going to go eat next because it's not going in there. And also there's a lot of plants that are toxic. Um, Poison hemlock. That's that's maturing poison hemlock, but it's in that hay field slash pasture right there, and they're haying it. And they're going around the hemlock, which is good, but I just wonder how much that might be in that hay, and that's not good because the most livestock won't eat it if there's good grass around there, but if it comes in their hay, they won't even know it's there, and they're going to eat it anyway. And that's another problem with noxious weeds and livestock. Leafy spurge is another one. It is toxic to cattle and horses. The only funny thing about all that is oh that will also it will give you it can give human skin irritation. And if you happen to get that in your eyes, it could cause blindness. But what I was about to say was goats like it and will eat it. In fact, this is goats eating leafy spurge. They would bring in goats to wipe out the leafy spurge, and so it's kind of weird how it's bad for cattle and horses, but the goats love it. Timber is another one. They figure nearly $125 million a year is lost on noxious or invasive species in timber. So invasive species, of course, is not just weeds. anything, bugs. Um, so this is a English ivy in a forest setting, and that it just takes over your trees. It'll cover your trees, and the trees will die. All the English ivy on the ground, you're not going to get any trees to grow. There's not going to be any forage for, wildlife. Those trees are pretty much done. Spotted knapweed gets up in the forest. There's no new trees are going to grow through that. And if I mean if one started, just look at all the competition it's got, and again, you're not going to grow any forage for the wildlife. Um, Himalayan blackberry, kind of the same thing. It just covers, it takes over the ground, and no chance of any new trees growing or forage for wildlife. Oxeye daisy, that's another one, bad one that gets into the gets into the trees. The wildlife won't eat that, and it crowds out all the native plants. Recreation, 20 over $20 million per year they figure is a lost in invasive species. And this is a mostly a weed presentation, but I can't talk about invasive species and recreation without talking about the mussels. Quagga mussels and zebra mussels. We're lucky so far in this state. That's the reason if you have to go by a boat check station, they want to check for those to make sure you're not bringing them into the state. Idaho's got them. The quagga mussel is one, and the zebra mussel is another one. They're both pretty bad. This is Lake Mead quagga mussels. It can start out if you got like a pipe or something under the water. They'll just attach to anything, and pretty soon it will look like that. And then pretty soon whatever it's attached to is not even recognizable. Lake Powell, they have a problem with it. Lake Havasu, they've got a bad problem with it. And currently, Idaho is fighting it. And the Snake River in Twin Falls, near Twin Falls, the Department of Ag in Twin Falls County, they're uh they're working. You might have seen it on the news, but they're working really, really hard because they found some in there, and they're working really hard to get those out of there. But those aren't weeds, so back to weeds. Uh, Japanese knotweed. That will crowd. We've got Japanese knotweed here, but nothing like that. You go to King County, and they've got some pretty bad problems like that. Um, it's going to crowd out any other vegetation, as you can see that, because that's about all you see. It crowds out the wildlife habitat, and when that in the fall and winter, when that all dries up, that's it all dries up kind of like poison hemlock, and it'll be a bad fire hazard. There's some more knotweed, low water right there, but if it was high, I mean, you're not gonna walk through that to go down and fish. Reed canary grass, we got plenty of that here. It just kind of crowds out. It grows mostly on the waterways, or if the roadside's kind of a wet, it'll grow there, and it just grows up and then kind of hangs down, grows down into the water, and it'll hang down into the water. And when it grows into the water enough, it will not let the water flow freely, and it will silt up, and it will um, cover spawning grounds. So salmon that maybe used to go up in there and spawn, and it's going to be all silted in. They're not going to want to go up there and spawn anymore. And also, I can't help that played a little hand in all the flooding we had in February. Some of those when those roadsides get full of the reed canary grass, it just the water can't flow freely, and it's going to back up and it's going to flood. Eurasian water milfoil. If you've ever got into that in your boat, that put a damper on your day. And just regular trails, hiking trails get overgrown with any kind of noxious weeds. And so I mean, they're no fun to walk through. And plus you're spreading that seed around. You're walking through it. And I don't know if you've hiked much, you might have noticed boot brushes. They'll put boot brushes at the trailheads. So when you're all done and they you can brush your feet off before you get in your car and carry it to your home or anywhere else. I don't think they have dog brushes. Well, they do have dog brushes, but I don't think they put them at trailheads. But that's hound's tongue all over the little furry seed spreader. And just scenery, even just the beautiful rolling hills of the Palouse or wherever is that's all. That's a big field of poison hemlock in there, and I mean, although it's green now, pretty soon it's gonna grow up and it's gonna turn white. And then when those white flowers, then pretty soon you're gonna have a big field of dry, dead stalks, and it takes away from the scenery. White top on that pretty hillside. The guy's working on it anyway, but same thing. It it turns the hillside ugly. Beach grass is a noxious weed over on the coast. You're probably not going to be playing any sand volleyball right there. Phragmites, that's a picture from down on the river here in Whitman County, and that's the same thing. It's going to grow up and just keep spreading, and going to go on down the river, and the counties down there aren't going to appreciate it much. Turkish thistle, that's in Hell's Canyon. And that's a Turkish thistle. And while it's still pretty and there's not too many of those in this picture, maybe in the next couple of years it might look like that because that's just a solid field of Turkish thistle. Scotch thistle, that's over on the west side of Whitman County. Just takes a pretty rolling hill and turns it ugly. Canada thistle, that's ugly no matter where you see it. And so it's not just a rural problem. I'm not sure where that picture is, but that's Japanese knotweed. It almost looks like they're growing it in their planter. But that stuff grows to it'll grow 10 feet tall, and it's not good. That's a kind of an otherwise pretty scenic, but then of course you got your big poison hemlock right there. Giant hogweed in the middle of a parking lot, and that stuff's poisonous too. You don't want to park your car and get your kids out and go run through that stuff because it's bad. It's causes skin irritations really bad. Oh, and there's my daughter again. That stuff is terrible. So a few weeds in Whitman County and the surrounding areas. I'll start with a couple with the surrounding areas. Palmer amaranth was just found. It grows in open, sunny areas like fields, rangeland, grassland, roadsides, disturbed areas. And it was found just 2 years ago. There's the Whitman County north boundary, and it was found right there 2 years ago. A big field of it in 17 miles away. So I kind of cruise that boundary every once in a while, try to keep an eye on it. And on that same year, they found some in Walla Walla, and it grows about 6 to 8 feet tall, but can grow to 10 feet tall. It could grow up to 2 inches per day. It looks like, I don't know if you know pigweed. Red root pigweed looks the same as that, except it only grows, a couple feet tall. This is a headline. I couldn't find the headline, but this is an actual copy of the headline when they first discovered this stuff, and it's resistant to a lot of herbicides, so it's a hard one to get rid of. And it's not here yet, we think, or is it? Because just this summer in September, I believe it was, they found some Palmer amaranth seed in birdseed in a bunch of stores. in the state of Washington and Oregon, and one of those stores happens to be in Pullman. And so they recalled all the seed and they put out a news release. So if you have any of that sitting around that you bought in Pullman, you might have a you might have Palmer amaranth in there. Turkish thistle, that's the same picture I just showed you, but so this is kind of crazy what noxious weeds do. This they thought it was well, it's first found in 2007. They thought it was Italian thistle until 2014, and then they discovered it is Turkish thistle. And by that time, they had a lot of it, and it's in the Hell's Canyon, the Pittsburgh Landing area, and then it showed up in Wallowa County in Oregon, which makes sense because they're Oregon. The only thing that separates them is the river, and then there we are, the Soton County, right there. But it really baffles me that how come they have it there, but not in Soton County. And I'm a little early on that slide, but that's the crazy thing about noxious weeds. In 2023, 2 years ago, it showed up in Cowlitz County. It was just a little bit, and they got a handle on it. And so, as far as I know, it's not there anymore. But how did it get there? From there to there? I don't know. You never know if it somehow got in some hay or what. But that stuff, it's sneaky. Of course, then there's our poison hemlock, which if you don't know what poison hemlock is, and you've driven through Whitman County, you've seen it. I know you've seen it. It's a Class B. It grows up to 12 feet. It's a biennial, prefers rich, moist soil, and it adapts to other conditions. Usually, it's a riparian weed. It's mostly grows in the wetlands and the wetter soils, but I've seen it up on a dry hillside, and so it adapts. It grows pretty much where it wants to. It reproduces by seed, viable for 3 to 6 years, and it's poisonous too. Animals and humans both. And Socrates died. The tea he drank was made from poison hemlock, and it kind of bothersome to see animals right there staring at it. They usually won't eat it, and I mean they got good green grass right there, and they usually won't eat it unless there's just absolutely anything else to eat, or it happens to show up in some hay that they're eating. And also now you'll drive around now, and we don't have any snow on the ground, so you'll see that right now. That's everywhere right now. And I mean it's not really the time to spray right now, but like when it warms up, it's way better to get on it and take care of it, spray or cut it, however, before it gets that tall, because it's pretty much too late and it takes way more work, way more herbicide. You can dig it. Definitely use gloves. Mowing is not very effective as they'll resprout the same season. Those are some herbicides. I don't get too much into herbicides. I let the herbicide companies do that. But I mean, I know what works on them, but um, and I can recommend herbicides, but I kind of let the fertilizer outfits take care of that. Scotch thistle, quite a bit of that over on the west side. It's a Class B. It grows 8 feet or more. It grows 6 feet wide. Again, there's the little rosettes, and there's an old one. So this picture was taken either in the late fall or the early spring, because those will grow those will start in the fall, and then they'll go dormant over winter, and then they'll kick back up in the spring. They're biennial. It's wet meadows, wet pastures, dry pastures, rangelands. Really pretty flowers that produces 8,400 to 40,000 seeds per plant. That is in the fall that has already gone. See that flower? You can see that the flower, the whole seed pod is sits like that, and now the flower's gone, the seeds are all gone, so that seed pod is all empty. That thing has seeded out, and the seeds are now everywhere. That was a really pretty patch over in West Whitman County. Um, and if they're not taken care of, pretty soon it's going to be there, and then pretty soon it's going to be there, and then pretty soon it's going to be over the hill. And again, like poison hemlock, the best time to take care of it is when it's little like that instead of waiting until it's big like that. You can do it there. You can dig them and pull them. You can mow them is effective before the bloom, but if you mow too early, it's still going to get a seed head on it and bloom. It's just going to be shorter. Um, if it's too early, like I said, just if it's too early, it'll continue to grow. There's some herbicides. Herbicides are good and effective and way less work. You just got to read the label, make sure you do what it says, and use it accordingly. Puncture vine. I hate puncture vine. Also known as goat heads, found in pastures, roadsides, waste places, parks, agricultural areas. Um, there's a there's a dry lot. I don't know if that's somebody's yard or what, but if you got rid of all that and planted a nice stand of grass in there, you're gonna get rid of the puncture vine. It's not gonna come back. Um, they seeds remain viable for 4 to 5 years. Each one of those, it's got like 5 section, and each one of those, what 1 to 4 seeds. So like, probably 20, 25 seeds in that whole little thing. But the whole plant itself can produce 200 to 5,000 seeds and sometimes up to 100,000 because when you see a whole, they stretch. I mean, the roots there and they just go for feet all directions. That's Matt Amaranth. It's not noxious, but it looks, if you're not close or you don't know enough about it, it looks like puncture vine. When I'm doing 55 down the highway and I see a little patch of Matt Amaranth, I have to hit the brakes and look at it closer to know that it's not puncture vine. One of my favorite memes. My boy used to walk home from school and I used to step on puncture vines in my house. And finally asked him one day, I said, "How are you walking home from school?" Because, they had sidewalks. And he's, "Oh, I'm taking the tracks. I'm walking the back way." I said, "Don't do that anymore because those do hurt when you step on them." That's a spot in the county that I hadn't been there for a long time. And I showed up one day and that puncture vine is clear out to there. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I don't do anything about it, people are going to drive through that and they're going to spread it all over the county. So I bagged it, I cut it and I bagged it. And I mean, you pretty much have to bag it because you can't cut it and leave it there. They're still going to drive through it and it's still going to be there. That's another section. I had a lot of fun that summer. Go out there early before it got hot and I'd cut it and bag it. And there's another place where it got away from us and I didn't want it spread. So I cut it and bag it. It's not my favorite thing to do, but if not, it was gonna spread. Digging and pulling, yeah, I mean, easy. And you have to bag it and get rid of the plants. I don't even have to bag it, but you have to do something. You can't leave it there or it's gonna get spread. Those are some herbicides that work on puncture vine control. I've had people tell me I can't find anything that works on my puncture vine, that it dies really, really easy by herbicide. But I think the problem is they'll spray it and then they'll come back in 2 weeks and they'll find new plants. So that's why I said if you're not using pre-emergent herbicide and you spray it like with Roundup or 2,4-D, it's just in 2 weeks you're going to have the same patch. It's going to kill it, but it's going to keep growing over and over and over. And for the time it germs to the time it has a viable seed is only 2 weeks. So that's why I say, I mean, if you go look at it in a few days, you'll see it's dead. But if you go back in 2 weeks, you're going to have the same growth again because it's all new growth. White bryony, it's class B perennial, and I know you've probably seen that because there's plenty of that around here. It's got climbing stems and it grows 12 feet long or more, and it's going to kill your tree or your bush, and no doubt about it. If you don't do something about it, it's going to, that bush right there is dead. Um, and there's last year's growth, and it's working on killing those trees. And then there's just this year's growth. So it never got taken care of. And now, and it went dormant. And now these guys are starting and they're gonna surpass that. And in a few years, those trees are gonna be dead. Um, those trees are already dead. And they've probably been dead for years, but the white bryony is still going. It's still gonna climb them because it's got something to climb. It's got berries, and that's another bad thing about it. The birds will eat those berries and spread them. Um, and that's what the roots look like. They're huge. And really the only way to get rid of white briny is to dig that root out. And if you've already got a bad infestation, that's almost not possible. They're just big. And I just said that birds eat those seeds, but it's also toxic. So I don't have my story straight there. Um, but it's going to kill that tree. It's just climbing. See how high it's climbing. Digging up roots is just the only way to get them really. And some suggest digging them up and putting and cutting the top of the root and putting glyphosate on them. But I mean, if you've gone that far to get the root, why not just take it out? The tree, I had a row of trees I kind of experimented with in the early summer, right when it started growing. I took glyphosate and I sprayed them and it knocked them back. And I did that all summer and it knocked them back every time I did that. And they never did get to the trees. But I really doubt I was hurting that root either. So I mean, it was just kind of a temporary fix. But my experiment got cut short when they cut all the trees down. So I never did get experiment much after that. This guy's don't have gloves on, he should. So um, Myrtle Spurge. That's there's a little bit of that in the county. Not a whole lot, but it's a Class B designate, which means it's a class designate because they want to get rid of it, and it's doable right now. It's a perennial. It's a cool looking plant. I'll admit that. Um, and it's reproduces by seeds and rhizomes. And if you were to till that up, you're going to break those little crowns up, and they're going to start growing again. So if you till it up, you're just going to make new plants. And I think it's an escaped ornamental, and that's what they did. They're really pretty. People put them in their gardens, and this little rock garden here is really pretty. And they probably were really cool when they first started, but now look at it. I mean, it gets away from them. Um, that's myrtle spurge, and yeah, it's poisonous too. These are pictures of kids that have gotten into that. You get that milky sap, and it causes severe skin irritation. Um, it can be successfully dug up or pulled, but it will take years. Uh, and if you do that, yeah, definitely wear protection so you don't get it on your skin. I used some Tordon here one time on one, and it still hasn't come back. I used it one time on a little patch of myrtle spurge, and it's gone. And I look at that every year to see if there's any more coming back, and it has not. And I told Mindy I'd stop at 6:45. What do you think, Mindy? We got questions?
Yeah, we had a couple questions.
Okay, I'll tell you
Um,
what. I could do this. We got enough weeds, luckily, in Whitman County that I could do this all day. So I'm just gonna go to my last slide, and I'll take any questions.
awesome. I'll throw a couple questions at you.
Okay.
Any specifics for treating goat's beard and skeleton weed?
Skeleton weed is on my list of but it was down there. Skeleton weed. Yeah, it's a perennial. Um, and mowing, you can mow it and you will stop the seed production, but it's still going to come back next year because it comes back every year. So and you can hand pull it. They say hand pulling it. I mean, if you stopped it and if it was a little infestation, it was doable and you could just hand pull it. I think eventually that plant's going to die out as long as you don't let any seeds grow. But herbicide is the way to do it. I mean, if it's a big infestation, that's about the only way. Um, Goat's beard. Yeah, I admit I've got some of these questions before, and I'm not sure what goat's beard is. And I know, and especially coming from the South, even some of the same weeds are called different by a different name up here, than they are like down in Idaho. But the goat's beard, I I found, and what I think might be it is, it's not invasive, and they didn't really have, well, I guess yeah, you could, no, that's a skeleton weed. So yeah, I don't know about the goat's beard. I'm not really even sure what it is, but the one that I found is non-invasive. But again, you got, if you wanted to send me
It,
pictures of a certain weed, and we could ID them, and if it was a problem, we could figure something out.
they also may have meant goat, the goat heads too. I'm not sure if there was
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay. Yeah,
a
yeah, I did.
common name switch up there.
Okay, okay.
Goat's beard. There we go. What about ventinata? Are you familiar with that one?
I'm familiar.
Someone
I'm
said,
familiar with
yeah.
it. I haven't done a lot of work with it, but in studying it, the it's an annual, and it's a 3 year. The seeds are viable for 3 years after they mature. Mowing multiple times per year, they say will help as long as you can mow it before it goes to seed. And even some suggest, if you're like, if put hay in, if you have hay, and if you can hay before it goes to seed, you'll eventually get rid of it. Other than that, there's some pre-emergent herbicides. There's a one called Rejuvra that it's got a long residual. It might go for years if you sprayed it one time. You might be good for a few years. And again, where the seeds are viable for 3 years, maybe one or two applications of herbicide would do it.
Awesome. Oh, and it looks like someone commented that goat's beard is also Western salsify, and I've
Oh,
definitely
okay,
seen salsify in it.
okay,
So yeah,
okay.
it's
I think
a common name issue.
right, right.
Thank
I
you.
do, I do know what that is. I don't think it's on the noxious weed list, but and again, I don't know what the best is, but we could figure it out.
Someone also asked, we may have a few more questions than we've got time for. So again, Scott would be happy to tackle questions before we wrap up here. Someone is interested in, let's see. I have a very large hill that is infested with dandelions. I know dandelions are not on this list, but for anyone looking to create like a wildland meadow, just looking to kind of broadly clear weeds, do you have any recommendations?
Um, yeah, I mean, if you're uh, there's a few different options there. If you were going to reseed with your favorite wildland grass, I think that the best thing to do would be to spray it out, everything out. I mean, again, I don't know if you're talking acres and acres or a little lot, but if it was feasible if you sprayed it out with like glyphosate, it's going to kill everything, almost everything, anything that's not resistant. But if you wanted to keep what you have there, um, you could spray with like some 2,4-D or some kind of, there's other stuff that's got residual, that's a broadleaf killer, that doesn't harm the grass. So yeah, I guess those would be my two suggestions.
Awesome. I'm going to combine a couple of questions because we
Okay.
had a couple adjacent questions. If an absentee landowner is not dealing with noxious weeds on their property, like poison hemlock, is there anything that can be done about it? Is there any enforcement that the county does? Yeah,
So
so kind of an enforcement question regarding other properties.
currently, we don't have, I haven't had a lot of teeth. I will talk to the landowner. I might send them a letter. I will try to get them to take care of their problem. And a lot of times they will, a lot of times they won't. I've been here now for 6 years, and there's been a lot of people that won't. So we're kind of changing things this year. We're I have worked with the county prosecutor, and a lot of counties do this, but we are getting ourselves set up to where we can issue citations. I don't want to go out and be a cop and write tickets, but there's just some people that flat refuse to comply, and then their neighbors fighting their weeds horribly, and uh, and they can't do anything about it. So yeah, up until now, I tried really hard to get the neighbor to comply, but um, but now my video's off again, isn't it? Oh, now it's on. Anyway,
You're
so
good
yeah.
now.
So so yeah, hopefully we'll be a little bit stronger going forward. But yeah, that's what we'll do. Yeah, so yeah, if there's a problem, you have a problem with your neighbor, you call me and I will try to help you.
Awesome. I'm going to try and combine a couple more questions
Okay.
again. Um, Someone asked about suggestions if you're aware of any funding sources that municipalities like the city of Pullman could use for noxious weed control. Um, and I also wonder, kind of with that, what assistance you receive from the state level. You're a one-man operation right now.
I uh I don't get a lot of funding. I don't get really any funding. The state weed board has a program that they will help you out if you have a class A weed, which I guess I'd rather have no class A weeds than get money to spray class A weeds. And I just learned of a program through the Department of Ecology, and we just started. There's a grant, and so I'm gonna try to get this grant. But yes, other than that, no, I don't get a whole lot. The state doesn't really have a whole lot of programs for noxious weeds, at least like the Department of Agriculture.
Okay, thanks. We had a couple folks interested, and someone actually mentioned buying goats in the chat, so I'm going to lump that in with here. Any long-term effects or alternatives for chemical management? Well, I guess
Well,
alternatives to Roundup. What does that maybe
okay,
look like?
okay. Well, I know that's very controversial right now, and I talk to a
Yeah.
lot of people that want to take care of their weeds, but they don't want to use herbicides, and I understand that. And I know if you're not careful, herbicides are bad. But I think, of course, my whole life I've been dealing with large amounts of weeds, and you can't take care of large amounts of weeds with a shovel and a hoe. So I'm a I'm a believer in herbicides, but I'm also a believer in you reading the label, you wearing your protective gear, and doing it right. And I think if as far as long term, if you were persistent and used them correctly, whatever you are trying to get rid of is going to be gone. And it should mostly stay gone, at least to where it's down to a manageable, maybe you can get it by pulling and et cetera. But yeah, I think yeah. I don't know what else I'm trying to say, but I think it's kind of important.
Definitely. Some of these guys are mean.
Emphasize and
Um,
controlling drift, yes. Um,
yes.
that's part of it. That's in the label. Your herbicide has to stay on your property.
Yep.
It can't go where you don't want it to or where it shouldn't.
Um, Another question. I have big patches of Canadian thistle in my pasture this year for the first time in 20 years. Farmers around also have huge patches this year. Are there any means to combat them again without Roundup, specifically for Canadian thistle?
Well, Roundup, I mean, if you have it in your pasture, it's going to kill your pasture. Canada thistle has got a horrible, huge root system, and it's a perennial. And that root system, there's pictures I've seen where the roots they'll go several feet deep. And so again, you could keep mowing it until as long as it doesn't go to seed, and maybe down the road that plant just might reach the end of its life expectancy. I mean, nothing lives forever, whether even if it's perennial. But there's other herbicides beside Roundup that would even be better for something like Milestone does really good job on Canada thistle. But
Yeah, somebody else actually mentioned Milestone in the chat. Awesome. Um, I think we've probably got time for two more. I'm going to merge a couple again. So,
Okay.
any thoughts on, and this may not be something you can speak to because I know you're different municipalities, but
Uh,
to specifically poison hemlock in Pullman, are there places that municipalities can use for weed control, or places that I guess City of Pullman residents can talk to the City of Pullman about the poison
yeah,
hemlock? I know that's kind of
they're
a muddled question.
they're as concerned about the hemlock as I am, and everybody else in the county that is concerned about the hemlock. In fact, last fall, the late summer, we I had a talk with the Parks Department, and we kind of thought we should put our heads together and see if there's something. I mean, be it outreach or something. So, I mean, Pullman, they do their weeds, I do the county weeds, but we also work together on kind of to, if there's a problem, I'll go to them and they'll usually take care of it. But so yeah, I'm hoping maybe probably after the first of the year, I would like to sit down with the city of Pullman and talk about it. So yeah, as far as again, they are pulling their hair out just like I am.
Yeah. And these, I mean, they travel in our waterways clearly and on our car tires and our dogs. So
Yep.
working together makes sense for
Yep.
sure. And I will wrap up with one more question for
Okay.
you. Would you mind listing some of the most prevalent weeds you see in home gardens for Palouse communities? Maybe some of the um, most common or most problematic that come to your mind.
Well, like I did mention, the myrtle spurge is one that I see in gardens. Again, I don't really pay that much attention to gardens. I'm usually out looking at the the bigger infestations, but the myrtle spurge is one I can't help but see in gardens because people do plant them there because they're pretty, and then they take off. But I mean, I've seen poison hemlock in lawns in yards, and so I suppose that'll be in your garden. But I don't really garden myself, so that's a tough one. I guess I can't really say.
That's okay. I guess the question is if someone does have a garden and has
Uh,
some unidentified things that they're worried about, they
yeah,
could
I
reach out to you.
noxious weed or not, I can come out and we can identify it and figure out what it is. Even if I can't identify it, I've got people I can call about, and so yeah, we can get it identified.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scott. We really appreciate your information and expertise and willingness to stick around and tackle some questions. We will be sending a post-event survey to everyone, and that information, if you're willing to fill that out, that information is how we select topics for future conservation talk series. So we invited Scott this evening because so many folks were interested in hearing about noxious weeds. So if you've got some topics you're passionate about, feel free to fill out that survey, and we will use that to inform future talks. So thanks again, Scott. Thank you, everyone,
All right, thank
for
you.
being here this evening. And again, this will be posted on our website and YouTube next week.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you, everyone.
everyone.